Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Super Gene Unleashed. And today I'm joined again by Dzenana. And actually, Dzenana and I just recorded an episode. And in that episode, we spoke about her journey and all of the transformative encounters that she has faced in terms of shifting from her career, a corporate path, into a path led by Ayurvedic. And the reason why I wanted to record again with Dzenana and have another episode release is because at the end of the last episode, we were, I think, just about touching on the topic of plant medicine. And today, actually, she is fresh off of a specific retreat. I will let her talk about that more in a minute, but I just want to preface that today we have absolutely no agenda. We have literally just shown up, hit record, and that's the beauty of it, because sometimes in life, the greatest things come when you don't have a plan. And the whole point of today is to really uncover and understand a little bit more about plant medicine, because it's something, frankly, I've been reading a lot about, but really don't know much of what it is. So Dzenana, welcome back. And can you please explain and share what on earth is meant by plant medicine and what exactly you just did and where you're fresh off of?
I do want to preface, I'm going to speak to plant medicine from my own experience. I'm by no means an expert, nor can I speak for anybody else or the textbooks that are out there, but I can definitely tell you my own experience.
Okay.
And the experience I had this weekend was with grandmother, ayahuasca. I believe this is my eighth or ninth retreat. And
eighth or ninth time doing ayahuasca.
No, it was my 14th and 15th time doing ayahuasca, but it was my 8th or 9th retreat. Because usually when you go and you sit for 2 or 3 times.
So hold on. Then you must have been doing this for quite many years.
Yes. So why don't I start with how plant medicine came about, and then I'll tell you about it. Yeah. This happened just about 3 years ago. I felt the call to sit in medicine. Through the last episode, we spoke about my life. I have sat in the Western medicines of alcohol and all the other drugs that you just get off the street. But when it comes to medicines for healing, I hadn't experienced it yet in a form of being led by a shaman or somebody that's really experienced in that area. And when I had stopped drinking, I had created a lot of space within myself to trust myself to be under the influence of certain medicines that I was researching. And like you, I did a lot of research. I spoke to a lot of people. I read a lot of books. I was really interested. And the one that kept calling was ayahuasca grandmother. And it was such a relief to know what I needed and wanted, but it was also a very scary endeavor because I've heard a lot of stories. And like anything in life, I feel there's a YouTube video for every experience, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, honestly, you can find an opinion on every topic, one way or the other.
Yeah. And if you dig deep enough, you're going to oftentimes go into the rabbit hole of the bad experiences. However, I just knew I was called. So I did my research, and what was interesting is I could not find a place to go and receive. And that's another word that is used, receive. When you sit with grandmother, you receive.
Okay.
Means you receive the wisdom, you receive the calling, you receive whatever it is that's coming into the space when you're under, in the medicine, under the influence.
And that's a more positive word to say anyhow.
Yeah. And I couldn't find a place. And what was interesting is ibogaine kept coming through. Ibogaine is it's a grandfather medicine. So it's another medicine that is also used for healing. It's not as well known or as well used because it's normally a 48-hour trip versus a 6-hour trip. What was interesting, as soon as I found a place for ibogaine, grandmother just came right to me. She was like, nope, this is where you're going. This is what you're going to do.
Okay.
Like, just fell in my lap.
So she found you.
Mm-hmm. The same day that I found the ibogaine retreat and called the place to talk to them, that was in the morning. In the afternoon, I went to swim. And this person that I'd known for a couple of years just walked up to me and just started talking to me about it out of nowhere.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I just looked up and I was like, what's the retreat? And they gave me all the information. And I right away got in touch with them. It was like a perfect fit. Anyway, so I found this retreat, and I've experienced a grandmother in the States, in South America, and it was
Okay.
absolutely beautiful. And I just knew that this trip needed to happen for me this past weekend. And the reason I was called to sit is there was a blockage of unworthiness that I was accessing, but I couldn't put my finger on it.
Well, how did you know that you had this blockage? Just your inner knowing and intuition?
Yeah, it was, I kept dipping into the space of, people might call it depression, but what I really kept dipping was into this space of lack, into the space of lack of inspiration. I kept hitting blocks of what I was trying to move forward, and I couldn't figure out what was blocking me, right? I left corporate. I was taking care of my body. I was creating videos and everything I needed for my business, but it started to come from a place of lack versus a place of abundance. And I started to recognize that because I'm really sensitive to how my body moves. If there is something that I don't want to do and I'm forcing myself to do it, I start to tap into that. And I was starting to recognize more of that space versus the want of to be there, the want to present myself, the want to share. I really dipped into my meditations. I dipped into isolating myself. I dipped into sitting with myself, and I couldn't get to the space of where it sits within my body. And what's really interesting about this within me, like I said, I'll speak from my own experiences, I will be able to take myself so far, and then my psyche will stop. If it's a too sensitive of a topic, or it's not something within me trusts that I can breach that right now, it will just block. And have you ever heard of parts work or?
No, I haven't actually. What is that?
It's called internal family systems. So it was created by Dick Schwartz, and parts work is basically where, I'm going to just slightly go into it, and not a lot of people might know about this, but I think you'll be interested.
I mean, I certainly have never heard of this before.
So it's a therapeutic modality. It's something that therapists use. So it could be like EMDR, or it could be another form of like talk therapy or trauma therapy, but this is called internal family systems, also known as parts work. Parts works with three major personalities within us. The first one is the exile. The exile is the energy that is blocked within you, that is a frozen experience from trauma, right? And oftentimes exiles come from trauma, not necessarily from joyous experiences. They could, right? Because if you get too attached to having too much, for example, then the exile could come from that space. But in my essence, the exile was from unworthiness because of my past. And then what happens is each exile will have a firefighter or a manager in front of it that's like managing the situation. It's like, oh, you can't get to that part because it was too hard for you to handle it when you were little. So now we're going to manage this for you. We're going to create either certain habits or standards or things you're going to do, keep doing to avoid getting into that space of the exile to really see what you need. And so I kept hitting the wall.
That's pretty deep, to think about. I literally just had a visual of somebody inside my brain, like managing and directing how I am based on any trauma,
Yeah. And that's exactly what it is, Stacy. So we all have this. We all have personas within us that want to keep us protected from what we had experienced as children, or, if others believe in past lives or ancestral things that we're healing. And so these parts regulate how we communicate. These parts regulate how we show up. These parts regulate how we work.
But what if we don't remember the trauma? Like, for instance, what if, I don't know, what if something happened to me, let's say long ago, but I simply don't remember. I don't remember a lot from my childhood. Would I still be impacted? Or do you think that this manager would still be, I guess, managing my actions on my behalf because this was such a deep-rooted experience that I haven't parted ways from?
You ask a really good question. You said, what if I can't remember? Something that I want to express is, this is something that we all experience. We all experience a childhood, and not all of us can remember it. I personally have a handful of memories, and they're not pretty, right? And there's a whole lifetime I don't remember, right? When I say lifetime, I mean my past, my actual past of childhood. And sometimes you don't need to remember. Sometimes remembering the essence of the feeling and understanding what it feels like in your body to release that energy. All it is, it's a stuck energy in a certain specific part of your body that your body's holding on to. And some of us get to remember and some of us don't. And it's not even about always remembering, right? We don't have to get stuck that, oh my gosh, was I molested as a child? Or, oh my gosh, was I beaten as a child? Was I abducted as a child? It doesn't matter. Like, we get stuck on thinking that these things are going to come out. What's really important is for us to access the parts of ourselves that are holding us back and that are managed. And if we can focus more on the energy of what's within us, it will show itself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And so for me, I have been working with parts work for a while. And so I start to recognize when I'm not regulating in flow, because I know when I feel really good. I know when I am creating from this abundance, from this space of wanting to do the work. I know when I am giving to the universe from a space of love. And then I also know when I am not. And so I start to notice the differences, right? And this could be as simple as, wow, 2 weeks ago, I was waking up in the best mood. And this last week, I can't seem to get out of bed. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
I can't seem to fall asleep, or I seem to be eating and overeating. That was my thing. And it is my thing. We're going to figure that out after this. It hasn't happened since the medicine sit. But, you know, when you look at my body, you would never think, but I tend to overeat to a point of pain.
Oh,
and
wow.
I don't even notice it until it's done. And I'm like, why did I eat so much? Right? The other is sugar. And so I've noticed these things. And so I knew I had hit a block.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty incredible. It really shows that you're super in touch with yourself. But back to, so the ayahuasca, how long has it been since the last time that you did it?
So I did it in January. I was in Peru. Okay. And the reason I did
that's basically right after you left your job. So I guess now it was kind of a big pivotal moment too, because it's almost 6 months since that happened. And I guess 6 months is also a nice inflection point that it's half a year. So,
yeah, okay. What was interesting is I wasn't planning to go in January, because the whole thing that happened with my job was a sudden decision on both ends. Right? I had a plan to stay for another 4 years in corporate, and the universe heard I'm leaving, not how long it was going to take. And so the moment that I was complete with that contract with corporate, this opportunity just came in. It was like wild. It just found me. It was a friend of mine that was leading a group, and we had been in touch months before. And suddenly she's like, I have a spot open. Do you want to go? And I was like,
wow. So again, where it just found you, fell in your lap. And
yes.
I mean, it's like those signs, people I know are always, at least when I have self-doubt, I always want some kind of a sign that's abundantly clear about which choice I should take. So it's so cool that you had this, because of course it had to feel like, I absolutely have to go.
Yeah. It fell in my lap. Peru was interesting. I went to Peru for this sit in January, and that one whooped my butt. It was like, you're in the middle of the jungle for 10 days. And I decided to do a 4-day fast, 3-day dry water fast. And so basically that's where I didn't eat for 4 days, and 3 of it, I didn't drink water at all. After
my God, day. I can't even imagine. I mean, obviously I'm pregnant right now, so I'm like hungry all the time. But even when I'm not, I always have admired those people that can fast like that. I don't know if I could do it. Did you feel, I don't know, did you really get a lot of like mental clarity? Because they say specifically when you do this kind of a fast, like you described, they say that the mental clarity, once you get over this particular hump of, I guess, the blood sugar crashing or whatever it does, that the clarity is just incredible.
Yeah. What's interesting is in the first day, you start to notice where the mind is playing tricks, where the mind is saying what you need versus what the body needs. And for me, in the second days, when I started to tune into the body, and I was like, am I really hungry? Am I really thirsty? And then you go into all of these thoughts of the things you have done, and you start to really dig. It's almost like you have nothing else to do but to dig inside yourself now, right? You're no longer reaching out to put in, you're in digging out. And so,
well, especially you're in a secluded jungle, so you're really there alone with your thoughts.
And by the third day, you are in this space of understanding what is it that you want to choose. And what's really interesting about that space is you're no longer battling the mind. You understand where the body is, you're safe, right? Because you have to like equilibrize yourself, find that space in the middle. Now you are really listening to the wisdom of what's coming through. And you hit a point of clarity that's absolutely, I will say, introduction to fasting, in my opinion, studying Ayurveda should really start with at least 24 hours for you to get used to it, or even 12 to 16-hour fasts, just to understand what the body feels like. But you also have to remember, I did a preparation prior to going to the jungle. You usually do a month fast for grandmother. And what I mean by that is you cut things out. And so you're bringing your body to a certain space of already being a clean channel.
Obviously, you just did it this past weekend. So did you do this kind of a preparation fast for the past month?
Yeah. And because I'm Ayurvedic and I practice Ayurveda, my adjustments don't take much, right? I don't drink, and my sugar comes from honey and natural fruits. So for me, all I needed to do was stop eating ice cream, right? The ice cream that I would have.
So that's your poison. You do have a little human gene in you, and you like ice cream. That's good to know, because I was about to think, gosh, she has some resilience if she's only eating sugar from honey and fruit, which I love, by the way, but sometimes you have those cravings.
I mean, Stacy, that's not the only sugar I eat. Okay. Let's be real. I love cookies. I love dark chocolate. No, I eat it, but I don't. What's really interesting is I don't keep it in my house. And so for me to have to go to the store when I have a craving is
same here, by the way. I'm the exact same way. And it's like I'll treat myself if I go out, but I don't like to keep it in the house. So walk us through what you just experienced. I'm really so curious. And was it only 6 hours that this trip lasted? And I don't know, or did you do it a few times while you were there?
Yeah. So this was actually a receiving of 2 plants and 2 ayahuasca sits, and I'll walk you through it. So we arrived on Thursday and we did a breath work. So that was like the preparation of settling into the space and getting to know the people you're with. And then
did you know any of the people, by the way?
I knew the shamans, the people that serve. I've sat with them before. I didn't know any of the people that were receiving with me.
Okay.
Yeah. They were strangers, now friends. Yeah. And so there was about 5 of us total, and two shamans. On Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is the ceremony. And how it works is and also just remember, every retreat is different, right? What I'm about to explain to you is how this retreat works.
Okay.
Other retreats have different intentions and the way they flow. And I've experienced it differently. So what I really loved about this one is whenever I have gone to Peru twice now to sit with 2 different shamans. And when I went, I really went for a plant dieta, and I went for ayahuasca. So what that means is you drink specific plants for a certain amount of days to connect to that plant. And then you drink grandmother to seal the connection. And
And do these plants have some kind of an interaction then, I would suppose?
So, and this is probably something I'll send you a couple of books as well. But what's really interesting about the plants in South America is they have very specific powers, relationships, and these shamans, these doctors of plants that serve ayahuasca, a lot of them also know other plants that they connect with continuously that help them protect the space, help them be guided. And there's other things that I honestly can't even speak to because I'm nowhere near the knowledge of what they have. This is just what I have gained over the time. And so
for sure.
Yeah. So I have sat with 6 or 7 different plants and sealing them with ayahuasca. And so the 2 that I sat with this weekend with ayahuasca is Lobocaspi, which is a purger. It allows you to purge anything that might be stuck. And then Bobinsana, which is a feminine heart opener. And
oh, wow. That sounds pretty.
It's beautiful. And the way that we were receiving the plants is each morning, Friday morning and Saturday morning, we were doing purges. Now, what I'm about to explain to you might sound really painful and like, why would you do that to yourself? But just go along and I'll
I'm ready. Lay it on me.
There's a tradition where you do plant purges. And what that means is some plants, you just drink the tea and you fast during the 2-3 days, or you could eat, but you're really in the essence of the plant. You're connecting to the plant. You're journaling. You're not on your phone. You're really disconnected from everything. And then there's the purging aspect. And so what that means is you drink a huge cup of this tea, and then you continue to drink a lot of water until you start to throw up.
So is it the plant making you throw up, or the fact that you've had too much water making you throw up?
It's the energy that you're releasing that's making you
Okay.
throw up as a result of what you're drinking. So, for example, some purges, I don't even drink that much and I'm just purging. And some purges, I drink like
Wow.
2 liters and I'm like, there's nothing that's coming up.
So is
And
it just like, I don't know, how long does it take from when you've had this until you just start throwing
throwing.
up? Is it pretty
So
quick?
in the beginning, when I started to do this with the plants, I don't even remember if it was fast or slow, but this time to me, it wasn't about, it takes usually an hour and a
Okay.
half, at least. What's time in that space? You don't really think about time,
Yeah. And
but
I guess you're not like on your phone checking what time it is.
yeah. What's interesting is you go inwards, I go inwards, and I start to listen. Where's the block? Where in my body do I feel it? How do I feel about this experience? Why am I judging this experience, or why am I allowing this experience? I start to really ask myself, where am I sitting with what I'm doing right now? And then you start to notice the voices within your mind of how they're speaking about what's going on. And oftentimes you'll find an answer. Like in Bobinsana, which was my Saturday morning purge, I was purging a blockage in my masculine. And what's interesting is my masculine has led most of my life, right? I've been a doer. I've been a
Yeah, I
creator.
remember you said that as well. And, when we spoke last time, that you have a lot of masculine energy.
Mm-hmm. But masculine can be very toxic if not accessed from the right space inside of you, right? You have people who are workaholics, people who overdo, people who overpush in the gym, people who don't know how to stop. To me, I was doing that. And what I was doing is I was pushing past my limits instead of actually pulling into the essence of the masculine to understand how it wants to manifest. And so as a result, I had a block in my masculine side. So your left is your feminine and your right is your masculine.
Okay.
That's how we're separated. And what's really interesting is I was born with hip dysplasia, and my right hip actually holds a lot of trauma and issues from the past. And so I felt my right hip, it was like online the entire time, traveling through my forearm. It was like, it was getting fully numb. And
Really? Like just this past weekend, this is the sensation you were feeling?
Sunday, yeah, this is Sunday morning when we were purging with Bobinsana, like the body sensations were pretty wild. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You feel exactly where the energy is stuck. Once you're tuned into the medicine and you're willing to receive, you start to actually recognize where in your body is stuck. And I knew it was my forearm and I knew it was my right hip because I stopped to actually listen. And then what you can do is you can actually create a conversation with those parts of yourself. You can say, what do I need right now to let that go? I stayed stuck until I sat in grandmother that night, until I
Okay, back up just one quick second. So could someone like myself who doesn't know anything, like I didn't know anything about feminine side, masculine side, would I be able to detect blockages if I did this? Or does it take a certain knowing or study of the plant medicine to be able to get the most out of the experience?
We were being led also by people who understand these things. There's a mapacho tobacco that they can also smoke and help you release. They can also help you target it. Would you be able to recognize it? Let me ask you this. Do you know when your big toe hurts? Do you know when you have a headache? Do you know when your finger hurts? And so what I mean by that is it's about how well are you willing to tune into your body.
And so many people, and probably myself included, we don't necessarily sit with our thoughts, and what you just asked me about, can you feel the pain in your toe? Not the physical pain, but an emotional pain, or, like you said, trying to get to the bottom of why do I feel off this week compared to last week? And why, if that continues, why am I having multiple weeks where I'm feeling off, and what's keeping me in this sluggish space? But often I think so many people mask rather than trying to uncover what it is, because it can be scary to have those truths and emotions come out and face you. It's so much easier. Oh, if I stub my toe, I'll put ice on it. But if you uncover that you have an emotional trauma and your manager is making you feel or think or do a certain way, or however that works, it can be a lot harder to deal with.
Stacy, you just explained it really well. So this ease in the body is as a result of manifestation of not wanting to look at what's really going on. I'm going to say something right now that's really controversial, and this is my own belief. I don't say that anybody else needs to believe this, but studying Ayurveda and even watching my own father die from cancer, this ease in the body happens as a result of not wanting to tune into your higher self to really understand where the dis-ease is starting. And it's usually a mental, psychological, deep-rooted wound that is either unworthiness or need to perform or lack of love or whatever it may be that stemmed from when you experienced it.
Well, you know what's so interesting about that? So you've explained this emotional connection to the disease, but there's a lot of research that has been coming out recently, specifically related to cancer, non-communicable diseases in general, meaning I cannot pass it from me to you. And that's a disease that's originating and manifesting in my body. And there's a lot of information about it because the amount of disease that we're seeing of non-communicable diseases and people dying from these, it's at an all-time high. And we didn't have these kind of numbers 50 years ago even. And actually there's a lot of studies that are pointing to environment and stress. Even during COVID, I think one of the top indicators, I think it was the second indicator for death related to COVID was actually stress. And so I think that there's, in a positive way, there's a bit of an awakening happening with society, with gaining access to this information. And specifically with cancer, I've heard some people who are much more knowledgeable within, studying holistic health talk about how you might have like a gene expression for that cancer, right? Like we have the possibility to have, something wrong with a gene or whatever you would call it. But it's about the environment, the stress, and the traumas, and all of these things, including, of course, food, that then activate it and make that gene express itself, i.e. then, coming out into like a cancer. So it's so interesting to hear you say that because it also coincides with how, like right now in the world, we've never had so many people who have mental illness and, a pill for every ill and people taking, pharmaceutical medicine. So I'm very inspired to hear about this plant medicine journey because it coincides with a lot that I'm also seeing at the same time coming out, because there are many articles right now about plant medicine and psychedelics and how there might be all of these, opportunities for healing through them.
Yeah. And, the original question you asked me is, can somebody like myself who hasn't experienced this know how to access this within myself when I'm experiencing the plants? And I was the only one there that was a returning customer per se.
Okay.
Everybody
Yeah.
else was brand new. And the answer is yes. And my answer is this is the way to inner self. This is the way to discovery of who you are and what you need. Studying Ayurveda, I started studying Ayurveda before I started to experiment in plant medicine. And what was interesting is once I started to clear the channel, I started to be able to listen and hear and acknowledge what was going on. And it was through that ability that I started to call in other things to help me without even knowing, right? And then it just started to arrive. And so I would encourage anybody that's listening to this, even yourself, when you're ready, experience this. It's absolutely phenomenal. It is one of those things where I was in this purge, I was stuck in I was clearing my masculine. And when I sat in grandmother in ayahuasca that evening, my experience is usually 8 to 10 hours. I'm in the medicine. Normally they say it lasts 6 hours. It could be anything, right? It could be
in the ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm. And what's really interesting is like I brought a friend one time when we went and he didn't experience anything. And so it's everybody's different. For me, I'm very sensitive. Like I do 1 cup. So what you do is you take cups of the medicine. It's a liquid, thick
Does
tea.
it taste good?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, grandmother.
No, I'm glad that you're being honest. And then the other question I have is, do you feel messed up? Obviously, like for instance, when you an easy, relatable substance, I guess, is alcohol. You start to have a few drinks, you feel a bit woo-woo or woozy or tipsy or whatever. Do you feel different when you take this?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So you go into I call it channeling.
Okay.
Others might call it a psychedelic experience, but you start to travel in spaces you normally don't when you're sober, if that's the
So,
right
for
word to
instance,
use.
let's say that on this retreat, you were sitting in a forest doing it. Does that mean that you all of a sudden see yourself sitting, I don't know, at your house or in a different place? Or like, do you see things?
You could see yourself in any state, right? You lose coherence. Right. What I mean by that, like a mushroom sit can actually give you a completely different visual where you don't even think you're in your own house. With grandmother, for me, I know I'm where I am. Like where you start to visually see other things. What for me, and like I said, I can only speak to my experience because every single grandmother sit I've had is different. And
Okay.
everybody's experience is different, right? For me, what it does is it gives me visuals. Like, for example, in one of my grandmother sits, I saw my father. My father came and had a full blown conversation with me. He passed 4 years ago. My cat would come to me.
And is your cat still alive?
Yes, my cat's
Okay.
alive. And what's interesting about Buddha is
But did they look like they were through, in front of you, how we are now?
sometimes I feel their essence and I know it's them and I'll have a plumbo
Okay.
conversation. Sometimes I can physically see them. Yeah,
Okay.
right next to me. So it really depends. The energy of sensing, you don't necessarily need your sight. You just know. And
Yeah.
so like my grandmothers have come to me. I've had ancestors that I don't even know, not even from this lifetime, that have come to me and guides. And so are you, your question was like, do you see things? Yes. And I'm so sensitive to the medicine that I'll like travel into the skies and sometimes I'll travel deep into the woods and sometimes I'll travel deep within myself. And what does that look like? Oftentimes I'll go inwards. And so I'll just close my eyes for a second because there's a visual that's coming online. And basically for me, it's usually the vast space of the womb. And so if you think about the womb where the child or the infant or the fetus is created, it's a moist, dark space, right? It's a space that's created in this life form that's almost like when you take a seed and stick it in dirt. It's the
Yeah, I
same.
guess that's a very good conjecture to draw.
And so
The same thing.
I go into that space and I'm oftentimes in this darkness and that's what they call the shadow. And within the shadow is where I can see what have I left that I'm not looking at? What am I experiencing in this front that's blocking this stuff that's in the shadow? And I'll find all kinds of things. I'll find feelings, emotions. Sometimes I'll remember things. I've definitely seen things that I didn't remember per se.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll find personas. Sometimes I will find,
Sorry, what do you mean by a persona?
yeah.
Your
So
persona or someone else's?
both.
Okay.
So one thing you have to understand, and this is going to get a little woo-woo. So for anybody, that's listening to this, just bear with me because this is my experience. When you and I converse and when you and I interact, we're sharing energy. Okay. We're literally sharing energy. Even though right now we're not sharing a space, we're sharing
Right.
energy. And sometimes energies can attach themselves. And sometimes you could leave parts of yourself. And sometimes you pick other things up that are around you. And so when I have gone into this shadow, sometimes I'll find energy that wasn't mine. I'll find energy that I've picked up, or I'll find energy that I attracted as a result of the frequency that I was pushing out at the time. Right. And then I'll have to recognize and decide, is this still serving me or do I need to let this go? And oftentimes you're clearing. You're releasing.
Actually, I know what you're talking about because many years ago now, gosh, I think it's been, 5, 6, 7 years, I guess, since I've done it. I used to do something called theta healing. And it's basically, the person I was with was a theta healer. So she could conduct the session. And she actually described what you're talking about with the energies and how other people, like sometimes you absorb and hang on to the remnants of their energy. And she did do clearings. And I remember feeling as if I lost weight. And I remember every time I did the session, I would sleep like an absolute rock that night. Because I was always doing it after work and it was a couple of hours. She spent longer with me. I just remember that I slept so deeply. And yeah, she would talk about that as well. She told me, I think that I should take a saltwater shower or something after our sessions as well.
Saltwater bath. Do you want to speak about that experience? Because I think it's important for people to hear that. I would love to hear it, to be honest.
Well, for me, so let me just back up for a second. I do believe in a higher power. I was raised in a very religious family that is Roman Catholic. And for me, I do believe in a higher power. I believe in energy. But the problem that I've had with religion is I don't like the divide that exists between different religions. Because for me, I believe that one should be a good person and that like God is love. And if God is love, then God is not going to judge based on your religious affiliation. It's about you being a good person. And so the point in time that I did theta healing, I was basically at a crossroads. I had been in a relationship. I had thought that this person was maybe going to be the man I was going to marry, though, to be honest with you, deep down, I knew that he wasn't it, but I wanted it to be it because I wanted the partnership so bad. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because my parents had been to Dubai to visit me. And that was the last time I saw my father living. And my father met this man, gave him, his blessing. To be honest, I think that my dad knew he was in his final days. And when I said goodbye to him at the airport, I knew it too. It was like, as soon as I said goodbye, I just felt, I just bust into complete tears out of nowhere. And so I needed something to kind of help manage all of this. And instead of going to see a therapist, I was introduced to a friend of a friend, and she is a theta healer. She also studied Reiki. She was actually kind of facing something similar where she had just recently lost her dad. And so I did a session with her, and then I did multiple sessions with her. And a lot of it was kind of tapping into what you've touched on today, which is uncovering blocks and different traumas and different things that maybe are making you think a certain way or view the world or events in a certain way. And so it's kind of funny that, our modalities are different, but maybe I can't say the results are the same because we're two different people, but I guess maybe what each of us have gotten out of it. What really made me kind of believe in this healing was one session that we did. She connected to my dad, and she gave a message from him to me. And that message, first of all, she was not a native English speaker. Okay, so English was not her first language. And the way that she said what she said was something that, only really a native English speaker would say that. And it really sounded like my dad, like the particular phrase. And so that just made me feel like, gosh, maybe this is real. The outcome of all these sessions for me was I really gained a lot of self-confidence. I gained a lot of self-worth, meaning that I felt good enough. And I think that energy then is what allowed me to attract my now husband. And actually, she even called that too, that I would meet him. And she even said that it would be in an outdoor setting, which is crazy. So for me, I really enjoyed the sessions and found them useful. I don't know. I think it can be tough though, because it makes you face things, whether you're prepared to face it or not, it comes out, and you have to then figure out where do you go from here now that you've kind of learned these things about yourself.
I think the better question is, what's the alternative? To stay in the darkness.
Yeah, but many people do that. And I think many people sadly don't uncover those truths. And that's probably why, for instance, I'm sure you've heard the thing where the universe keeps throwing the same lesson at you if you don't learn it.
Yeah, it's the cycle of repeating the lesson until you look at the lesson for what it is. And for me, I was in that loop. I was continuously attracting the same type of man. I was attracting the same type of behavior from people. I was attracting the same type of friends. And he wasn't feeding me the way that I wanted to, and I couldn't understand why. And so for me, the biggest question question is how authentic do you want to be to yourself? How much do you want to show up in the energy that resonates to where it feels good and truly feels good, not it looks good, right? Are you performing for others? Are you people pleasing? Are you accumulating things because you feel unsafe? Are you looking outward instead of inward? These are all the things that I've been asking myself for years now, which is why my life now is where I am. Like, I left corporate. I am leaving the home I live in right now. And in June 30th, I'm moving to Thailand. I'm leaving everything.
Right.
And some might look at this and be like, oh, she's moving to Thailand because she just wants to have fun. And like, well, if you think I'm going to have fun, you're a fool.
Well, you probably will have fun though. You want to move.
Yeah,
but
I
it's
will.
so true about facing that reality and, what is the alternative. And I think that, I guess, coming on the other side of these self-discoveries in the people that I've met who have had the courage to face these moments and use this as a vehicle to better themselves, as scary as it can be, because of course we all have our comfort zone and we all have, this idea of what things should be. So leaving that is definitely scary, but it's encouraging to hear everyone who does take that leap, they don't regret it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, my life since December has been nothing but my own. And for the first time in my life, I wake up and I determine what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it, when I'm going to do it, where before it was very automated based on what I thought I needed to do to be safe.
Yeah.
And first time I'm able to understand where in my body do I feel the discomfort and to actually slow down enough to listen to the wisdom that's coming through. By the way, thank you for sharing your story. That was beautiful. And what you shared is exactly what I was talking about, the energy that's within us that you can feel, that you share with others. Because if you really, for me, I believe that we're all one, right? It's through each other, right? Through myself, I can help you. I can't help you if I'm not helping myself. And because we are one, and this energy, because it's shared, tends to accumulate in this shadow space of each one of us. And so you have to go in and clean house. You have to go in and recognize where the work needs to be done. And that's exactly what grandmother does for me. And with I never say I'm complete, because when she calls back, I will answer the prayer, the call. But for right now, I have received what I need to be able to go forth for the next year and do what I need to do.
And it definitely gives you more credibility as a coach and through your business venture, especially to show that you're continuously practicing what you preach, making sure that you are in the right place to be able to show up for your clients and help guide them on this path. So I just want to quickly turn back to the weekend, and coming off of the weekend, how do you feel and what are some of the main messages that you have that you're taking with you as you move forward?
The biggest work for me that I uncovered was the unworthiness wound, which I was aware of, but I didn't realize how deep it really was, right? I thought, well, if you follow the routine and you do all the things to help yourself, everything is going to clear out. And what I really recognized was there was a part of myself that still felt like it needed to perform. And what I mean by that is it needed to perform to be accepted and seen in order for me to know that I'm worthy and enough. And so coming off of the weekend, there was like this tenderness, this beautiful space of these little girls that I wasn't tending to, that were acting out because they weren't heard when I was little. They weren't acknowledged and loved the way I needed to be acknowledged and loved. And so I went inwards, and I'm even inwards right now. Like, besides me speaking to you and doing a couple of posts, I am very much spending time on my own and really reflecting on how can I nurture myself. And like you said earlier, everything that I teach to my clients, everything I bring forth, every module I build, and anything that I record or put out, I do it from a place of having done it myself first. I don't speak to anything I haven't experienced, right? If I haven't studied it, experienced it, done it myself, and understand it, I have no business being in it.
Yeah.
And what the experience of this weekend really brought forth was the importance of self-love, the importance of self-reflection, the importance of going inwards and allowing that space to open and to find the help when you need it. And to ask for that is completely okay, and not to feel like you're not enough, right? And to also be authentic and show up in all the emotions you have. And so what that means is a lot of us are afraid to be vulnerable and really say, hey, today, when we hung out, you really hurt me. What you said really triggered me. And I was just wondering if you could hold space for me to hear how I feel. It doesn't mean that it's yours, but this is how I feel. So I need to be heard. Imagine somebody having a conversation like that versus I've had enough, I'm done, and shuts the door. Right.
Goodness. I mean, I'm just thinking about different scenarios in the work environment and how, my gosh, with office politics, if these types of practices were, upheld or enacted, what a different place it might be. And all of the infiltration of technology and AI and navigating that space. At the end of the day, we're human and there is that vulnerability. And it is true, oftentimes people don't intend to hurt somebody, or they might not intend for you to receive a message the way that you did. But it is important that if you feel it, to be able to address it with them.
Now imagine that energy that gets to stick to you as a result of that experience.
Yeah, exactly. Because it sticks to you. And then it's something that you basically, like as an individual, when you get hurt by something, okay, maybe you vent about it to your partner, your best friend, your mom, whoever. You call them up, you tell them, oh gosh, this happened and this is how I feel. And why did this person have to say that? And then you think you've released it, but it stays stuck because and even if you forget about it and move on, it's probably one of those hidden managers, like we talked about at the beginning of this, that's kind of guiding the way that you think and act moving forward.
Yeah. And what you just said right now, here's my invitation as we close out our conversation. My invitation is the next time you're interacting with anything, anybody, right? Notice where in your body you start to feel or stuck, or your breath stops. Or you physically stop. Just start to notice where the flow stops. And that's how you start to recognize what things might be in the way.
Or even if your pulse gets higher, or you just start to feel something inside of you, a body change.
For me, it's the impulse to grab and eat. Like to avoid the feeling, right? Because when you eat, you're stuffing and then your body moves the energy towards something else. So And we laugh, but like to others, it could be addiction, right? So
yeah, it could. So what now? I know that we're coming to an end here. Like what happens from now?
Yeah. So I've cleared a lot of space. I have gotten a lot of messages, a lot of connection, and my connection to the plants is stronger as a result. And, a lot happened that night. Like I could go into more detail, but it's such a vivid experience that I feel like unless you have sat in grandmother or you are there for the experience, it would be like watching somebody walk on the street under the influence, right? It just wouldn't make a lot of sense. But what now? I got the clarity that I needed. The fear of uprooting myself and restarting from scratch is gone. And I have this clarity of knowing that the way that I'm moving is exactly where I need to be. And that's what I was asking for. I was asking for guidance on how do I clear what I no longer need so that I can invite the abundance that I deserve and do need in order to bring my gift forth.
That's absolutely amazing. And it's perfect timing because it's about 1 month until your move.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that it must feel wonderful that you are ready to embark on this new chapter. I have one final question for you. And at the beginning of this conversation, you had talked about how before you ever sat with grandmother, how you were looking some things up. And we said that, you could find the worst of the worst on YouTube. I want positive. What would you tell somebody listening right now who is contemplating embarking on a plant medicine journey or who is about to go, has signed up for one, maybe they're getting a little bit of cold feet or hesitation? What would you share with them so that they can have a positive takeaway?
I would say everything is on the internet. You can find somebody's truth in any position, in any energy, right? They're going to either bash it or love it. My invitation to you is if you have curiosity about a specific thing, ask yourself why, and then take the knowledge that feeds the why in a positive way, right? I never watched YouTube videos on grandmother until afterwards because I was like, what are these people talking about bad experiences? But I did read books and articles. I literally went to the books that I knew were highly rated of people that have done enough grandmother to know the experience and to offer the knowledge. And there's a number of books I can recommend. They're not coming to tongue right now, but what I would recommend is do your research, but also at a certain point, if it keeps calling, it's time to answer the call and surrender to that, because it's very similar to when you have the urge to go to the bathroom or eat or, go clean your house. It's like that. And just know where it's coming from. Trust yourself. The idea is you're going to come home to yourself. That's the whole point of the experience.
Wow. I really love that. I love the answer the calls, surrender, and basically just go for it. So take the leap. Thank you so much, Dzenana, for coming on today and sharing your experience. I mean, I'm certainly intrigued. I don't know if I will try it ever, but I'm definitely certainly intrigued. I haven't read much about it, but it is so lovely to hear your experience. And I'm so excited for you on this next venture. Thank you so much for joining. And I really can't wait to watch your journey and see what's next once you make the move.
Thank you for having me. This is absolutely amazing and love the opportunity to share this. And I hope whoever listened to it takes it with a full heart and knows that if nothing, let my experience speak for it. It changed my life.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much.